Welcome to our deep dive into South African property law. Whether you're an investor, owner, or tenant, understanding these key aspects is crucial. In South Africa, property law isn't just about bricks and mortar. It's about rights, responsibilities, and a whole lot of paperwork. So, buckle up as we journey through the ins and outs of South African property law, because knowing your rights can be the difference between a sweet deal and a legal nightmare. Let's start with the foundation, the South African Constitution. Section 25 is the all-star here, laying down the law on property rights and, you guessed it, expropriation. South African property law is a bit of a melting pot, drawing heavily from Roman Dutch law. But don't worry, we've also got modern statutes like the Deeds Registries Act and the Rental Housing Act to keep things interesting. First things first, what exactly counts as property? Well, in South Africa, we've got options. Real property is the OG, your land, your houses, anything stuck to that land. Then there's personal property, which is your stuff, your phone, your car, your collection of Springbok jerseys, and let's not forget leasehold. That's where you rent, not own. Now, let's talk ownership. Full ownership, or freehold, is the dream. You can use it, enjoy it, even sell it. It's all yours. But hold your horses, we've also got limited ownership. Think of it as having a timeshare with your property rights. And then there's co-ownership, where you and your partner, friend, or long-lost relative share the joys and headaches of property ownership. So, you've found your dream property and you're ready to seal the deal. In South Africa, you don't just shake hands and call it a day. Enter the deeds office, the keeper of all things property. For your transfer to be legit, it needs to be registered here. And to do that, you're going to need a deed of transfer, which is a legal document fancier than a Springbok jersey after a World Cup win. Let's be real, buying property isn't always as simple as whipping out your credit card. Sometimes you need a little help from the bank, or a lot of help. That's where mortgages and securities come in. With a mortgage bond, you're essentially saying to the bank, hey, I'll put this up as collateral. Of course, if you miss those repayments, the bank might just decide to call your bluff. Renting. Listen up, because this one's for you. In South Africa, we've got the Rental Housing Act, which is like the rule book for landlords and tenants. Your lease agreement is your best friend or your worst enemy, depending on how well you read the fine print. So, before you sign on the dotted line, make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. Think you can just buy a plot of land and build your dream mansion wherever you please? Think again, my friend. In South Africa, we've got this thing called zoning regulations, and they're here to tell you what you can and can't do with your property. Local authorities are the referees of the urban planning game, and they've got a plan for everything. Residential, commercial, industrial, they've got it all mapped out. A change in zoning regulations could mean a boost in your property value, but be warned, it could also mean a noisy factory popping up next door. Remember Section 25 of the Constitution we talked about earlier? Well, this is where it gets interesting. Expropriation is a big word for a powerful concept, the government's right to take private land for public use. Now, before you start panicking, expropriation isn't some free-for-all land grab. The Constitution has some pretty strict rules about it. For starters, it has to be for a public purpose, like building a school or a hospital. Property disputes are like unwanted house guests. They always seem to show up at the worst possible time. Whether it's a boundary dispute with your neighbor or a disagreement with your landlord, things can get messy fast. But before you start building a wall or changing the locks, take a deep breath and remember, there are ways to resolve disputes peacefully. Our legal system has options, from mediation to arbitration to good old-fashioned litigation. Navigating the world of property law can feel like trying to understand load-shedding schedules, confusing and frustrating. That's where the professionals come in, Real estate agents are like the matchmakers of the property market. They help you find your dream home, negotiate the best deal, and generally hold your hand throughout the entire process. But when it comes to the legal stuff, you're going to need a conveyancer. Thanks for joining us on this journey through South African property law. We've covered everything from the Constitution to expropriation, from lease agreements to zoning regulations. Remember, property law is complex, but it's there to protect you. Whether you're buying, selling, renting, or just trying to figure out who owns that tree hanging over your fence, knowing your rights and responsibilities is essential. And remember, when in doubt, always seek legal advice.